I'm muted. No, I'm not muted. Welcome to another edition of this fucking podcast. This is the one where I name names. Be forewarned, motherfuckers. This podcast is for me. Maybe you will enjoy this podcast. Maybe it will have some insights for you. Maybe not. All right. People are going to trickle in. The recording is recording. The living is living. The streaming is streaming. The rain is raining. The birds are birding. The grass is grassing. The blood is blooding. And we are here together at the Underworld Party. I gotta be honest, in the middle of this, it might be a cocktail break. Might be a cocktail break in the middle of this, or a pot smoke break or something. But we gonna get into the ritual part so we can be as sanitary as possible before we start the festivities. Okay. As we be. Salt on the tongue. It's going to be a salty podcast today. Libations and blessings. Water of the Mother Earth. Bless me, bless my body, bless this space, bless this live stream, bless this potato sack. Blessings to all the beings who have come out of the ocean so that I could be here today to talk some shit. If you got a candle, you should light it up if you're listening. It's choose your own adventure, play along, participate. See what happens if you do the thing, even just 10%. Blessings to Holy Fire. Thank you so much for the light and the warmth. Please shine on us in a good way. Make everything good. Even though we'd have no fucking idea what good is. We're just saying that. So, try to make it at least fun for all the beings that we are in relation with, that I'm in relationship with. Bring in that beautiful, sweet-smelling incense of the dragon's blood. Feeling all those elemental forces surrounding us, the four directions, always, always, always surrounding, watching us, watching our ancestors, watching our descendants. Always, always, always. Blessings to the great below, the center of all things, and the great deep down darkness. Please keep us grounded. Keep that gravitying so that we could have a place to come back home to when we die. Thank you to the great above, celestial beings, the stars, the planets, all the other campfires of the ancestors. Please watch over us. Shine that moonlight onto us so that we can see clearly in the dreaming. I'm going to pray now to the Black Mother, great old ancestors, and even beyond that, to that primordial Black Mother. Please help me be a good hologram today. Please help me be a good hologram so that all the energy that comes through my fragile little body doesn't wreck shit too badly. but also do what you need to do to make things good for all the beings that I'm in relationship with. Because there's always some pruning that needs to be done in the garden. There's always some tending that needs to happen. There's always going to be some shit that needs composting. So let's have a good funeral today. Let's have a real good funeral today. So if you're out there listening and you think this is just make-believe, well, I dare you to prove it to yourself. Take something that you don't need, write it on a piece of paper, throw it in the center of a circle, throw it in the middle of a fire. See what happens. See what happens if you get rid of some shit that you don't need, if you kill some shit that is fucking with you. Whether that's through prayer, song, dancing, some kind of artistic expression. This is some dirt magic we're doing. I'm not going to be doing any crazy, elaborate ceremonial magic. I'm not initiated into any lineages. I'm just being a person. And this technology is available for all people. And that includes the harsh shit called curses and things like that we're all afraid of because we don't know what they mean. But we'll break it down today. We'll break it down. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about the nasty shit. We'll talk about the hell realms, the ghosts, the demons, the blood, the nasty. But also talk about how boringly ordinary it all is. Very boring, very ordinary. So today I'm going to start a little bit. Got my new shirt on. See my new shirt? Etsy. You know how it is. Got Moth Baby here watching over. Sitting here in good old Portland, Oregon with the rain coming down. Chinook territory, Kalapuya, all the good peoples. All the good peoples tending these places. Take a seat. Take a seat and listen. Take a seat and participate if you want to. All those good ancestors. All those good kinds of ancestors that we don't maybe understand as ancestors. You can take a seat. I'm okay with being the clown. I'm okay with being the clown. I'm okay with being the fool. I'm okay with making mistakes. I'm okay with ruffling feathers. And I'm okay with all the messiness of being human. The first 3 podcasts, I set up a context. I gave some teachings. That's very real. Thank you to everyone who donates, by the way. That's very helpful. It's very nice. It's very kind. Donations can go to paypal.me/daresohei, DARESOHEI. All that information is widely available. Well, so because I invoke the spirit of donation, we got to talk about capitalism. We got to talk about how bullshit it is that everything we do is couched inside of a capitalistic marketing framework and what that does to our relations, to how we relate to each other, and the violence we do to each other. I told you this is the podcast, the one where I name names. But I also want to talk about a bigger thing, which is also the view. It's a context about context, which is that Westernism is a violence of decontextualization. Westernism, whiteness, Westernism, global neoliberalism. Ring that fucking bell. It's a violence of decontextualization. Those are some big words, but you all know what it means. Real life is hyperlocal. Real life is a niche party. Real life is right where you're at, and the relationships were right where you're at. Real life is the water that you drink. It's not the water somewhere else on the planet, but that's connected. But real life is hyperlocal, and that hyperlocality, that hypercontext, that multi-contextual, trans-contextual web is weaving itself, connecting, so that we have something called a globe, a holism. The whole world is this giant web. But we as individual beings, we don't live on the whole earth at the same time. That's crazy. That doesn't make any fucking sense. We're not forests. We're just these little creatures that live inside of bigger creatures. So we are hyper-contextual. We're hyper-local. But we've got these ideologies, these narratives, these ways of making decisions, right? So an ideology is just a way to make decisions. And we're living inside of a way to make decisions that has brought us to our knees, not necessarily in worship, but in a kind of begging, threat-based culture, where everything that we do, every decision that we make is weighed against the threat that capitalism, whiteness, and Westernism is levying against us all the time. So when we make decisions, when we have conflicts, when we have agreements, they're all adjacent to, connected with this threat response matrix called culture that we live in here in the West especially. But, you know, it's like that everywhere. It's like that everywhere. But here in the West, we've done a real good job of making our culture be number one through war, slavery, genocide, market manipulation, politics, social engineering, media, mafia warfare, basically. So we got to deal with that as we're sitting here trying to hashtag live our best life. Because all organisms avoid pain as much as possible. And I talked about pain. I gave those 3 first podcasts as a context of how I try to live my life. Not saying I'm perfect, but because when we really talk about actual ritual, it's not necessarily a clean and sanitized, predictable affair. It has a sense of the sacred, but sacred doesn't mean things that we like. It sort of might just mean things that are bigger and more powerful than us. And we sit in awe of those forces, even if we have disagreement with how that's happening. It's not about manifesting your fucking desires. You can try to make it like that, but it's not really. It's more about recognition and communication of larger and larger forces that prefigure us, that predate us, and that we are inside of. We are embedded inside of. So ritual can be very ceremonial, but it doesn't have to be. It could be very messy. Could have an improvisational structure, because you're just following this thread of the sacred, which is things that are bigger than us. And let's get real. The word sacred and the word sacrifice are connected, because sacrifice actually means an action to make sacred. But it also means killing something or getting rid of it or somehow ceremonially sending it to its great beyond, hosting a funeral, and having that be an offering to the greater powers to make some shit happen, to change some shit, to give us some better dreams, to maybe create some nicer holograms. But it's not a guarantee. No guarantees here. It's not safe. Ritual is not safe. Relationships are not safe. So the violence of decontextualization is how the West perpetuates its delusional insanity, its psychosis. And we see this all over the place, in every single person, in some way, shape, or form, including myself, which is this idea that I know what's better or best or right, and I'm going to try to make that be more powerful, because we're all starving for power. Let's just be real. That having a lot of power feels really great, and humans are addicted to that feeling. You can't escape that shit. You just have to work with it. So, I'll let you sit with that. I'm going to get a drink of water. I somehow did not put a drink here. Okay. So. All right, let's start this party right. Let's start it real right. Let's do the thing. Okay. Can I drink with this nose on? I don't know. Gonna fall in the water? Oh, that's real difficult. It's hard to breathe too. Okay. So, for the people who are new here, well, you're gonna have a flash course in the last 3 years of history. Just pretend that this clown nose is on my face when I'm talking. So, the first time I started to think that I could do this shit for a living is because I joined Daniel Ford's Ancestral Medicine Cohort number 3. And I had real big experiences in that cohort because they just do weird magic. And that's what that white guy does. He does some strong magic that has some Ifa, black ancestor spirits in it. There's a lot of controversy. I'm going to spill the tea. So anyway, I was in that course, and one of the people in that cohort, who's still a good friend of mine, beautiful, beautiful person, beautiful practitioner, has letters next to their name. Have been doing this for longer than I am. So we were doing these practicums, these triad practicums. One's a witness, one's the receiver, one's the practitioner kind of thing. It's very basic. They told me, you got it. They said that was one of the best facilitations I've ever seen. And I was like, what? Because I have no context, right? I'm not college educated. I have no letters in front or behind my name. And so I'm just doing what I do, trying to make it up as I go along, performing, right? It's just improvisation, loosely following a structure. And this other person who'd been doing this shit longer than me, working with people's sexual trauma, etc., told me that I had it. That was a great gift. That was a great gift. That might have been as equal to all of the visionary experiences I had during that training, of which there were many, and I'm not going to need to tell you all about that. But I had these great experiences. I thought I could do this for a living. I made a website, and I cast some spells, because that's what magicians do. We cast spells sometimes, and sometimes they work. So I was talking to the ancestors, I was talking to death. Things were happening. And a bunch of things happened in about the same 6-month period. Right? So I would be like scrolling the internet, and the ancestors would just tell me to click on links. I had no fucking idea. And they led me to all the right places, right? So they led me to a few things. I'm just going to name those names, right? So I found Steve Hoskinson's Organic Intelligence. I found Tada Hazumi, Cultural Somatics. I started reaching out to these people, started having conversations. I met my now partner, Larissa Call, during the exact same time. I basically was offered an opportunity to just talk to some local dancers who were dealing with some trauma issues in their local dance community, and Larissa was one of those people. And ancestors said, you need to talk to this person. I was like, I don't know why. And it's kind of obvious now why, but at the moment I was like, I don't know. I'm just doing what the ancestors tell me to do. I also found Resolutions Northwest, joined their anti-racism thing. A lot of stuff happened in a very short period of time. There's a lot of stuff, like so much stuff. Anyway, so all this stuff happened, and I was supposed to do these practicums for Daniel 4. And Daniel kept changing how they ran their business. All of this is documented, by the way, FYI. I'm not making any of this up. If you want to find the details, you go to my website. There's a page called Exposing the Con. I'll put it in the show notes. There are links there that other people have written to. And just so you know, when I write my analyses, I include evidence. Not just hearsay, not just my fucking opinions, not just my feelings. I include evidence and then analysis about the evidence, which is my interpretation. And obviously, because we live in the world we live in, you can disagree with me. And many people have disagreed with me. So anyway, I was talking with Tada Hazumi. We were working together. We decided we were going to do some ancestral healing for POC people. I had to ask Daniel for permission. That's the red flag right away. That's the red flag. But I was still very insecure. I was still very doubting of my ability to do this work. I really was like one of those people who's like, I need mentors. And it's true. I think you do kind of need mentors, but you really need to be fucking careful about who the fuck you choose for a mentor. That's real. And I learned the hard way that I thought Daniel was a mentor. Daniel's not a mentor. Maybe he's a mentor to certain white people, certain other kinds of people. They like that kind of fucking mentor because it reifies whiteness. That's great. Go buy a fucking house. Great. So Daniel got weird, started manipulating the situation, required me to do mediation with them. My ancestors were screaming in my stomach the whole time. Danger, danger, danger. Danger, Will Robinson, danger. I listened to my ancestors. It's very funny because Daniel opened the door in some regard for me to go fully into that realm. And then my ancestors were like, this dude's a fucking mess. You need to get the fuck away. So you got to be careful what boxes you open, people, because, you know, is the teacher your teacher, or is the teacher the ancestors, the spirits, the elemental forces? I think you know what I'm talking about. The real teachers is nature, which includes gods, deities, demons, ghosts, the whole 9 yards. It's not these people who want to be like shaman, king, wizard, whatever the fucks. It's not those people. So, obviously, fell apart with Daniel. I did some mediations with Daniel. And there's some people that I'm going to name right now that were supposed to protect me in the mediations, and they failed, and they kept failing on purpose. And those people are Taya Sher and Pavani More, Seda Selter. Absolute trash. Supposed professionals. Ooh, I wish I could have recorded those fucking videos. I would have plastered them all over the internet. Trash behaviors, complete fragility, complete codependency with Daniel. Pavani tried to tell me that I was going to act like some sexual predator that they had met in their previous somatic sex education program. Like, this is straight crazy ass transference, right? It's complete bullshit. This is some white motherfucking shit. And they're still practicing. And they're still lauded as good practitioners. Just so you fucking know, the state of the industry is such that you can basically make up your own fucking rules. That's just how it is. So, hey, live and let live, but let it be known. Live and let live, but let it be known that people dropped the ball. And when they dropped the ball, they doubled down on the justifications about why it was okay to drop the ball, because whiteness is a Ponzi scheme. And you got to be good with the king to get your little dollars so that you don't become homeless. So I went through that, and Tara Hazumi and Larissa and my mentor Henry really helped me break free of that shit and really helped me become securely attached to my own practice and my own body. And I'm so grateful for that experience. I'm so grateful for that experience. It doesn't let DF off the hook, though. It never will. Because that dude's a fucking mess. And since that time, many other people have come forward privately and publicly writing letters about Daniel's actions and behaviors. And people have asked me to keep quiet on very ooh topics. And I've done that for many years because I was like, it's not my place to say, that's your issue. If you've been victimized, you need to be strong and come out, and you need to figure out your own path on that. But it would be nice if you came out of your trauma closet, because there's a whole bunch of people basically saying this dude is the bee's knees, and you've had this information for many years and you never told anybody. So we got this, this thing that happens, right? Lots of people, mostly femmes, mostly white, not all, damaged, living in a patriarchal society, hurt. They say they move on with their lives. They don't want the doxing, right? They don't want to get doxed. They don't want to get attacked by new age neoliberal psychopathic hippies. I get it. But I'm just saying those aren't my stories to tell, but they're out there. And they were told to me, and I had to digest that shit. Okay? It's real. It's real nasty. It's nasty. So we got this web of people in the ancestral healing world basically biting off of indigenous people, making their own brand corporation, selling it to starving, lonely white people, mostly starving, lonely white women. But not all. I definitely felt the inter-POC racism that came at me when I did what I did with Daniel. Langston Kahn, other people who are luminaries, write those fucking books. Get that white money! Get that white money! But the ethics are messy. The ethics are real messy. So we're going to come back to this whole thing a lot during this talk. Is when people's capitalistic privileges are threatened, they will throw you under the bus. This is real. This is very real. So that shit happened. I moved on. I don't use any of Daniel's methodology. I don't need to, because I'm smart enough to understand what's really happening and just write about it myself. I don't need fucking structures and protocols. If you understand the underlying patterns and actually do the practices, you can basically develop your own system that isn't a system. Hopefully you don't trademark it like a fucking psychopath. Because how the fuck are you going to trademark ancestral healing or any kind of healing? How the fuck are you going to do that? But, whiteness finds a way. Whiteness finds a way. Because they wrote the books. And when you write the book, you an expert. Blah, 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 blah. It's part of the reason why I don't want to write a book, even though people ask me to write a book. I'd rather just do these fucking podcasts and just be oral storytelling, just like the ancestors did. And y'all can figure it out. Figure it out. Want to be in a relationship? We can be in a relationship. But not as a teacher-student. I don't know. No, fuck that shit. That's garbage. The West has decontextualized all of what these words mean. It's terrible. So that happened. And a lot of it, hasn't come to much of anything. It took a bunch of the other ancestral medicine student cohort people, like 2 years to write a letter, go through all these mediation processes with Daniel. Maybe only 1 or 2 of them ever contacted me. This is trash relating. It's trash. Even though I was the first one who publicly did it, which allowed them to do it, allowed them to see what couldn't be seen, I'm still this kind of dangerous person. So maybe I am a dangerous person. Maybe you're a dangerous person. I think all humans are pretty fucking dangerous. If you think you're safe and I'm dangerous, I know it. I know you're dangerous. Because the most dangerous person is someone who thinks they're good, righteous, victim, they couldn't hurt anybody. This is bullshit. It's trash. So let's walk a little longer down the road of time. Let's walk a little longer down the road of time. So last year, you might have seen, I wrote an analysis on this complete trash bag, Mark Walsh, who did the embodiment conference. This European dude, European white dude, completely alt-light, as in like alt-right but light, you know, Pride Boys light. And again, Tada Hazumi wrote one letter about honoring ancestors and how all the embodiment teachers are white and all this real shit. And I really wasn't going to get involved. I really was like, nah, I got better things to do this winter. But some angry ass ancestors came up and said, girl, you need to fucking use your word magic and do some shit. And I was like, okay. And people started sending me screenshots of what Mark Walsh posts privately. And they're hella racist shit. And I put it all in the analysis. All them pictures are up there for everyone to look at. So you don't have to take my word for it. You just have to open your fucking eyes. So let's name some more names. So this Mark Walsh thing happened and a bunch of shit started to go on. A bunch of shit. One is that everyone started talking to Tada, but not to me. Weird. Super weird. Like Tada's my leader or something. Like, what the fuck is that about? So I realized my narrative had gotten out of my control. Other people were controlling my narrative. There were ghosts controlling my narrative. And I had to do something about it. But while this was dawning on me, while this shit was dawning on me, Steve Hoskinson called me up because Steve Hoskinson was a channel sort of ambassador for for the trauma channel on this giant conference, which had like 12 different channels or something. You know how they have that choose your own adventure style shit. And Steve Hoskinson was like, what? And I was like, yeah, Steve, why are you connected with this piece of crap? And I basically had an hour and a half consultation with Steve, and Steve cried those white man tears. Steve cried those white man tears. And I thought, well, maybe there's some allies in this fight against imperialism, Western mental health imperialism, the co-optation of somatics by a bunch of fucking white people so they can get paid. I thought it was maybe. And still this whole time, a bunch of people using my work to write their own letters never contacted me. A lot of black women. A lot of black women not talking to me. It's real sad. I don't like it. I don't like what this world has done to relations. I don't like how I keep getting erased by people. It's real fucked up. But yeah, maybe I'm dangerous, you know? I'm a dangerous guy. Because let me tell you, when black women feel threatened, I immediately become a white man. But when they feel relaxed and they have the good vagal tone, they're like, oh, dare I see you, you black. It's fucking weird shit. I live with this my whole fucking life. And I'm not saying it's worse than having dark skin, because it's not. Because if you have dark skin, you're worried about getting shot by the cops all the time. But relationally, it's a fucking mess. So Steve cries those white man tears and says that he's got to go talk to his board of directors. I should have known. I should have known, because them board of directors, yes, Jazz, red flag. Because when you have bureaucracy, you can't pivot, because all the fears of all the white people who are on your board of directors, and maybe even not white people, maybe just people who are afraid of white people who are on your board of directors, will tell you some shit, and I am not privy to what that shit was told. But I can tell you, Steve did not get back to me. And let me tell you something that adds a little salt to the flame, fire, death party. Right before this happened, Steve was talking to me. Steve was calling me up saying, I don't know, I just need to talk to you. Ancestors were talking to Steve to say, come talk to me. I talked to Steve. It was nice. And then Steve comes and says, I want to do a webinar series, a free webinar series, because Steve does all these free webinar series on prayer. And I want you to be the first interview. So Steve set up the Zoom, interviewed me for an hour and a half, and I channeled and I talked about prayer. That has never been released. Another example of me not owning my narrative. And I started to realize over the last few months, if I was going to do what I do, it had to be on my terms. You can't be waiting for other people to release your footage or release your words because they got afraid, because it became too politically scary for them. So again, more gratitude. It's really nice when you get to see how people actually are. Not how they want to be, but how they actually be. And I'm not a perfect person. I'll be the first to tell you I made a lot of fucked up mistakes when I was younger. A lot of fucked up mistakes. I was super ignorant and I was super sick, and it sucks. But, you know, self-responsibility says you got to get yourself out of that. You got to figure out a way to get clear, you got to be ethical, you got to be in right relationship. You got to figure out a way. But when power and money are involved, ooh. It's too sexy. It's too alluring for the white mind. It's too alluring. And of course, there's plenty of white anarchists, so, you know, hashtag not all white people, but whatever. I'm on a rant, so I get to say what I want. So basically, Steve don't get back to me. Steve keeps my footage. All these people benefit from my analysis, but don't talk to me. Mark Walsh takes his money and moves to Mexico during the COVID. It's real. I was on a class that there's 50 people in the classroom doing continuum movement, and Mark Walsh videoing from Mexico. So, I know this shit. This is not a fucking secret. You make lots of money and you jump your ass to Mexico so you can be an entrepreneur in Mexico during COVID, because that's what fucking people do when they don't have any relations. They just get to shit on everybody else and they get to do whatever they fucking want to do. I'd love to fucking go to Mexico too. I don't think it's very ethical. I think about it, but I don't do it. Okay, during this same time, we got more names to name. It's nasty. It's nasty. All your heroes gonna fall down the toilet. So I wrote some letters to some people during this time because I was trying to find out, did I have any allies, or was this actually just the trashiest industry of scared people who needed their white money to buy their houses and pay for their medical stuff? And that's real. So I wrote a letter to Bayo Komalafe. So let me tell you a bit about how I met Bayo Komalafe. At the very beginning, when I told you I cast all those spells, and I met Tata, and I met Larissa, and I met Steve Hoskinson, and I was doing all this shit, and it was all just happening, I joined Bayo's course, We Will Dance with Mountains. I think it was the third course. I think some people know me from that course. Here we go. Let's spill that tea. During that course, a bunch of POC women got very, very, very upset with everything. And they might have had a great reason. I actually think that the course was not facilitated very well at all. The course was not facilitated well. I'll say it again. Bayo Komalafe is not a good facilitator, period. Great poet, great philosopher, shit facilitator. So all of these POC women, and we had a private Facebook group. You know how it goes. You know how it goes. So all these POC women were real hot about everything in their rage trauma response. And every time I said something that countered what they believed or wanted to believe, they would white man me. And they white manned the fuck out of me, and I didn't finish that course. I didn't finish that course because it wasn't actually safe for me to finish that course. And they basically called for me to be accountable for my sins, even though I had not done any sinful things. I was just being like, hey, what about this? And what about, like, what's the multiracial, multi-gendered, multi-causal context that we're in here, people? People don't like that shit, though. People don't like that shit. They love that binary, I'm the fucking victim, you're the oppressor. So I got white manned by all these women who didn't know shit about vagal tone or trauma or how to deal with their rising kundalini or whatever the fuck's going on. And so I left that course. I didn't finish that shit. So fast forward again, I write Bayo Komalafe, who was one of the presenters at the Embodiment Conference. And I ask him, hey, what's up? Here's my analysis. What do you think? What are you going to do about it? You going to do anything about it? Basically. And Bayo basically fed me this shithole line. This is a shit sandwich. This is a shit sandwich. Bayo basically said, Dare, what you're asking me to do to Mark is exactly what those women in that course were asking me to do to you, and I won't do it. And I had to put on my contextual reasoning cap and be like, what the fuck is going on here? How are these the same situations? I'm a person in a course who's also POC, non-binary, marginalized, maybe not as much as them, but whatever. And these women are angry at me because I'm part of the conversation, as a peer, as an equal. And they're saying, Bayo, deal with Dare, he's a bad person. How is that the same as me saying, hey, so this guy who is making all this money out of the embodiment conference, here's a bunch of pictures of his Facebook feed and all the things where he's just blatantly racist and misogynist. How is that the same fucking... How is that the same? The context is totally different. It's not the same power dynamic. So, great poet philosopher Bayo Komalafe, who gets paid lots of money to go to white colleges and talk to students, follow the money. Hashtag follow the money. When your profit is threatened, when the profit is threatened, ethics are malleable. And When you operate in a decontextual frame, you think that A equals B. So all these people looking to bio like he's some great social justice leader and magical facilitator? No, that's crap. That's like saying, Dare, build me a rocket ship to Mars. I'd be like, I don't know how. I'm not a fucking engineer. I don't know calculus. You shouldn't be asking me to do these things just because I'm a philosopher or ritualist. Why would you do that? Why would you think I'm that? I don't know where you got that from. But in social justice land and in hashtag wellness industry land, we can say poet philosopher is also a great mediator, ritualist, has great ability to discern things. It's not true. Come on. Let's get real here, people. A does not equal B. You have to be very aware of what forces are driving your motivations. And if you don't want to be honest about those forces, that's fine. I can't make you be honest. But it makes for a very confused public, especially when a lot of the public is in phase one trauma responses all the time, and they're looking for attachment figures who are like the end-all be-all of sanity, and you're not basically saying, no, I don't know how to build a rocket to Mars. Please don't put your attachment shit on me. I'm not correct all the time. And also, I want to keep paying my mortgage and my rent, so I need to be polite to whiteness, so they keep hiring me to fly around the world and give these talks. You see how insidious this shit is? This is the real. And it basically means that you can't trust people in this industry because this industry is not about wellness. It's about getting paid before you die, while pretending that you're a really good person because you like somatics or something, or like you talk to the ancestors or something. So, do I hate Bayo Komolafe? No. Bayo Komalafe's words are hypnotic. They're great. He's a great writer. Does Daniel 4 help some people? Sure. I'm sure that he helps some people. He's not like fucking Hitler or something, like this is not, he's not. But there is a reality to power struggles and how people make their decisions. And when they make mistakes, do they actually rectify them or do they double down? Come on, we know the answer. Most of the time they double down. Because buying a house is a very high stimulus event. And if somebody gave you $20,000 for a book, you might take that money. And then you might have to pretend that you're special because you wrote this book so you could make more money so you could pay the bills on the house you bought with the $20,000. Because now you're a fucking landowner now. And you got a bunch of students who want to be landowners. Because that's the American dream. And you want your kids to be landowners, and you want your kids to go to college, and you want your kids to be, right? So you're willing to make these choices, and it's very easy to choose your kid over someone like me, right? Again, dangerous person, light skin, has a penis. Don't care what points I'm making. It doesn't fucking matter what points I'm making. The optics are biased. So, hashtag I don't fit in the optics. Therefore, you can ignore me. Therefore, you can say that I'm wrong while you keep having the deals with capitalism so you can pay your mortgage. And you could have your kid inherit your house. Am I saying you shouldn't love your kid or try to take care of them? No, of course not. That's just silly. But the greater context is here. It's a greater context. You still with me? Because there's still more. There's more. You better stretch. Drink your water. because there's more. I told you this was a funeral, so this is the eulogy. The eulogy is let all things be known so that there could be maybe truth and reconciliation somewhere. And it's rough. It's rough. It's rough. You know, I'm full of pain right now because there's some ancestors that are like, fuck, dude, you're sabotaging your shit. This is highly stressful. And I'm like, yeah, I know, whatever. I got to do what I got to do. So the most recent piece of crap that caused me to go, oh, I need to step away from the Ritualist Justice School. I need to stop being financially entwined with Tata. And it's just got to die. It's just got to fucking die. Was, you know, if you followed it, Tata's written a ton about it transparently. All of this is out there. I'm not secret. There's no secrets here. But basically, you know, Tata's a big proponent of this kind of very paradoxical, very anti-SJW orthodoxy kind of like, think for yourself. Why are we using these terms in these ways? Why is there so much lateral violence? Why is there so much whisper networks? And why is there so much attachment disorders and trauma bonding between activists and so-called teachers and all that stuff? And they've been, you know, they've been dealing with this whisper network thing for as long as I've known them. And so that means I've had this kind of backstage view helping them. I've like basically been a practitioner to help them deal with some of the effects of being at the receiving end of this whisper network. And so I can really hear how you can develop a very low threshold and a low tolerance for people, especially people who act a certain way, when you've been systematically hurt by them, which is basically saying it about everyone. I say it about myself, say it about Tata, say it about, you know, everyone has the straw that breaks the camel's back, in the sense that there are just certain people, certain behavioral types that trigger you because you've been on the receiving end of harm from them for too long. And I think the best that we can do is, when we get triggered like that, is to not weaponize our victimhood and not weaponize our harm to try to get revenge on another person, even if we think our revenge is a kind of a righteous action. And it's really tough, too, because there's a difference between having analysis and evidence and just having hurt feelings and a lot of deep interpretations, and which one, you know, going with the latter and not the former. So if you're triggered, that doesn't necessarily mean someone abused you. It just means you feel triggered, and you got to figure out, was that real? How much of that was real? You got to deal with that. We don't have a lot of that checks and balances kind of sanity in our social justice world. And that's why the right, the alt-right, attacks the left, because the left is acting crazy, and it's two crazy people yelling at each other, basically. So this is real. So anyway, back to spilling tea. So Tata said some inflammatory things that were taken the wrong way on Instagram, you know, living their life, doing what they got to do, iterating forward, making mistakes, or just improvising like we all do, just trying to like think about things that are taboo or heretical. And this person that they worked with once upon a time, Kelly Germain from Energetic Justice, decided to basically write up this kind of hit piece that hit all the right notes, which said that like Tata was like this serial abuser based on these whisper network campaigns that they had heard. And then one of the people, you know, it's just a complete and total disaster capitalism thing, because Kelly Germain is all about the hashtag Black Lives Matter, which is the binary of white people and black people, and every other kind of person is just like a spectator in this black and white struggle, as if somehow there isn't anti-Asian hate going on everywhere, and all the other kinds of anti-whatever going on everywhere, anti-indigeneity, blah, blah, blah. And I saw this in my time with Resolutions Northwest. They were big on anti-blackness, right? So they are always about anti-blackness because they have reasons, and I think those reasons are pretty good. But the problem happens when you get a person in the room who's like half Native American and half black. If your idea of racial justice is anti-blackness is the worst thing and we got to deal with that so the world can be a better place, a whole lot of Native ancestors who are massacred are going to come into that room. And your fucking social justice analysis based on Kimberly Crenshaw's intersectionalism or whatever the fuck are not going to be able to withstand the power of 1,000 ancestors who were massacred and genocided. They're not going to be able to do it. You're just going to sit there in a stalemate of oppression Olympics until you recognize that it's a lot more deep and complex and ritual is needed, but you don't have those skills and you're basically shitting your pants and you don't know what the fuck is happening and you keep talking about anti-blackness like you're fucking talking to a sane person who's not possessed by 1,000 angry, massacred ancestors. I swear to God, people are so stupid, man. People are so fucking stupid. It's amazing. So anyway, we have this sort of black and white thing going on in this country because apparently that's the thing that we have to keep dealing with because it is, but it's sort of locked in this circular loop and everyone wants to be more hurt than the other and it's just this kind of insane mess and it's a really bad scene and we're all inside of it. And we all know it's a really bad scene. And we're all probably grief-stricken and heartbroken about it. And we're sick to our stomachs about it. And we don't know what the fuck to do about it. And we just keep waking up every day being like, I'll try to do something about it. But anyway, Kelly Germain, in her white lady shame, in her Christian, energetic Christian white lady shame, who has all these black mentors feeding them this kind of rhetoric, and of course added to it the Whisper Network against Tata, decided to write this piece of trash article that has all these facts wrong, but basically says Tata and the Ritualist Justice School is trash and all of our teachings are trash, and doesn't name me at all. But she names my project. And she thinks she can get away with this. Knock, knock, motherfuckers! This is the one where I name names. So, when this started happening, I was like, what the fuck is going on? How did this jump from 0 to 60? Like, Kelly Germain is like talking cool on Tata's page 1 month, and the next month there's this whole fucking hit piece. I'm like, this is wild. So I'm like, I'm friends on Facebook and Instagram with Kelly Germain. Let me go see what's up. I was blocked. I was blocked on Facebook and Instagram, even though I had no idea what was going on. No one reached out and talked to me. You seeing a pattern here? You see a pattern here? I had been blocked. And I was like, why was I blocked? Wasn't even, what the fuck's going on? Because this was how a white woman needed to feel safe. Because apparently she had no power. And we were bad, bad guys. So check it out. If any of you were in the last Rituals Justice cohort, you saw how that shit blew up. And I ain't sorry about it. All those people that were part of that cohort that couldn't understand what was going on and now think that I'm a bad teacher, go fuck off somewhere else. Just go fuck off somewhere else. Don't talk to me ever again. And keep my name out of your mouth. That would be nice. But you're probably not going to keep your name out of my mouth. You're probably going to talk shit about me. And you're probably going to use this as ammunition against me. It's not going to fucking work. So check it out. Lots of shit happened. Tata handled it their way. The teachers, me, Larissa, Kate Fontana, and Tata had multiple mediations with each other to try to ritually figure out how to deal with it. We did the best we could. I'm very proud of us all. I couldn't have done it alone for sure. I was at my bandwidth. I'm so sick of this shit. I'm not a mediator. I'm not a fucking restorative justice person. I ain't playing that bullshit like we can't have fucking real feelings about how people harm us. That's bullshit. I'm not your fucking saint daddy. I'm just a practitioner. I said it from day one. I'm a practitioner. You want to practice with me? Let's go. I ain't your fucking counselor, your healer, your daddy, your shaman. None of that shit. So this stuff keeps going on. And then out of the blue, I start getting things on my feed. Like through my timeline, Kelly Germain has de-blocked me. And so now I see Kelly Germain's posts again and again. But there's nothing about this in their posts. And they never fucking contacted me. Even though they basically tried to destroy my fucking business. Because it's a Christian imperial scheme. Because if the white Christians can't be on the winning side, that's the real deal here. The white Christians who now, pray to their fucking crystals or some shit. Like they know what the fuck they're doing. Nah, this is trash. Hashtag energetic justice my ass. This right here is energetic justice. I'm telling it like it is so people can make up their own damn mind. So Kelly Germain tries to tank my business, blocks me, unblocks me, doesn't say anything about anything, acts like it never happened. That's delusional as fuck. Now check this shit out. Knock, knock. Resma Menakem is apparently Kelly Germain's mentor and basically is signing off on Kelly Germain's analysis of Tata Hazumi. Knock, knock. Any heroes in the house? Hashtag follow the money. Hashtag the optics are biased. Hashtag people make up their own fucking ethics to get paid. Yeah, Resma's a pretty big deal. Grandmother's Hands, my grandmother's hands book, pretty big fucking deal. Every white person is on his dick. Every white person is on his dick right now because he wrote a book about white bodies, black bodies, and blue bodies, aka police bodies. Do we see the missing pieces all the time again? I understand that white supremacy is a big problem, and I understand anti-blackness is a big problem. But if we're going to decontextualize everything and selectively cherry pick everything, you're going to have a big problem because it doesn't work that way. It just can't. Like, ecosystems are too diverse. They're too enmeshed. Beings have sex with other beings. Mixed race babies exist. This systematized way that these people have been trying to spoon feed stupid white people are actually coming back to bite them in the ass, because if you feed them a system that doesn't actually work in the real world, they just keep doing violence. It's not useful to lie to people and not tell them the whole story about how healing and all this stuff, about how shit remediates and ecologies and transcontextualization and sort of like meta patterns. It's not useful to basically leave out how complex systems are in order to try to just get white people to be nicer. And they'll come back and bite you in the fucking ass because you'll create a monster that you can't control. You'll create a bunch of really stupid white people or stupid activists who think they are not stupid and who think they know everything. And will use it like a fucking hammer and everything will look like a nail. And that's what we've got going on right now. And this is just my little corner of the world. Imagine how many other secret stories you don't know about all your fucking heroes. Maybe there's a lot of black women in that mix. Maybe there's a lot of Latinx people in that mix. Maybe there's a lot of gay, transgender, all sorts of people in that mix that they wrote a book or they're getting popular or they're getting speaking gigs and they have an in-group bias and they haven't dealt with their trauma in a complex systems way and they haven't decolonized their decision-making process because they're still westernized and they still want to get paid and they still need money to buy groceries. And perpetuation of a kind of stupidity that is just about choosing sides and yelling at the other side and saying our technique is the best, but never practicing it. So if you only practice your technique on people who have your worldview, your same ideology, it's not good practice. A good ideology, a good worldview works because it's based in natural processes and people don't have to believe you. Right? So when I say I'm animist, you don't have to fucking believe me. You don't have to pray to trees. Perfectly fine. Don't fucking believe that deities exist. But if you take the experiment seriously and see what happens, if you just try it on and see what happens, and you really unpack your biases and your ideas about what's right and wrong and what's true and what's false, and you actually give it a go, then come back and tell me, look, I tried it. Here's exactly what I tried. These are the results I got. This is the conclusion I made. That's what I'm talking about. But we don't have that in this culture. We just have optics, people's faces on books, people buying houses. That's what we've got. And so I'm primarily about honesty. I'm actually okay if you're like, I want to buy a house there. But you have to come with that reality. You have to be honest about it. You have to be like, look, I'm not paying attention to you and I'm erasing you because I think you're dangerous to my business. Just fucking tell me that shit. I would respect it. I would go, I hear you. I respect it. You do not want to hear a dissenting point of view because you're building a house of cards and you need that shit to stand up against the wind. I hear you. I would say that shit to someone and be like, now I know. Now I fucking know. I had no guesswork involved. But instead we have people who ghost and people who make up weird fallacies like A equals B when they don't. And all to justify their stance, which is not honest. It's not an honest justification. If you were actually honest about what you were actually feeling and why you were making the decisions, maybe I wouldn't name your fucking name. Maybe I would be like, oh, that's what they chose. Okay. But I know that I'm going to die, and I know that you're going to die too. And I'm not trying to be a ghost, and I don't want you to be a ghost either. And part of how we don't be a ghost is that we don't do this kind of shit to each other. Sometimes we do have to fight because people are possessed, and sometimes you gotta throw hands. But I'm not relishing in the violence. I'm not like, ooh, this is so addictive, I need to keep doing it. No. We need to distribute force. We need to distribute violence. And we need to have a more robust way of relating that actually can deal with these kinds of things and deal with the kinds of different ideologies. But in the end, everyone needs to eat some food. Like the commonality is very important. Like your ideology, whatever ideology you subscribe to, and whatever justifications you use to make decisions, do not supersede the fact that you have to breathe and you have to eat. And I was in a class this morning, which I want to share. I'm in the Warm Data Lab with Nora Bateson. It's really cool shit. All about complex systems, but let me tell you, it's some white shit. Ooh, white people are so remedial. It fucking sucks. Amazing. It's like talking about sensing, and I'm like, wait, this is where you're all at? Oh man, it's rough. I'm like, wow, I guess I'm a fucking genius. And I'm just thinking I'm a normal animist person, but I guess something else is going on. We need to talk about basic ass shit. But it's beautiful because they're reaching a lot more people than I can reach. Because, they're pretty famous and they have letters against their name and all that stuff. And it's wonderful. But it's also like, shit, give me some money. I'll hire a bunch of Aboriginal people to talk to us. That would be more interesting, I think. We get some more advanced kind of conversation. But I was in this warm data lab and we break out into these small groups to sort of do these trans-contextual conversations. It's pretty cool. And one of the people was from Uganda, and they're in a refugee camp in Uganda. And I'll try to do the story justice. But they're in a refugee camp in Uganda that has multiple refugee camps or tribes or whatever you want to call it from different countries in Africa. And because of COVID, their food supply got fucked up in the refugee camp. Which makes sense when you think about it, right? Like in first world countries, we ain't going to hear that shit for a while, but if you're in a so-called third world country, you feeling that shit immediately. The breakdown of systems, the anti-distribution of systems, the hoarding of white countries versus more melanated countries. So basically, they are part of a group that is teaching people permaculture principles in order to grow food together, because there are these different groups of people that all speak different languages and they all have different backgrounds in different countries and different, it's how it is, but they all need to eat food. And so they're teaching people permaculture principles so that they can start to grow their own food in these refugee camps. Because they're not getting help from these giant organizations who can't pivot because there's too much bureaucracy. And this person telling this, story about what they're doing is saying that, like, as they're teaching people, like each month they teach maybe about 25 new people or something. There's like a new cohort. But he says that when they teach those people, something like those people teach other people, even if they aren't masters of it, they're just like spreading the knowledge. And then when people come back to them to kind of like workshop with them or like join the new cohort, they come with different ideas about how to apply the principles. So not just growing food, but like, I don't know, making soap or something, right? Like very cool shit, right? And all these people working together through different languages, different dialects, different cosmologies in order to get the basic needs of people met. And I'm sure some of these people have different ideologies, but when you're gonna starve, when you're actually at that place where if you don't fucking work together, you'll starve, I don't think your ideologies fucking mean that much. I just don't think it really matters that much. And here in the West, we're not there yet. And I don't want us to have to get there until we recognize this, but it might not be up to me. And it probably isn't up to me, because I think that we're in a deep doo-doo situation. We're in a deep motherfucking doo-doo situation, and we keep making enemies, and we keep doing lateral violence to each other. All because we want to get paid. Because we want to be able to not get stomped on in the street. But eventually, we're all going to be in the street. We're all going to be in the fucking street. The longer this shit goes on, the less that we can force our institutions to pivot to something that's actually less scalable, actually more hyper-local, more hyper-contextual, multiple kinds of economies overlapping in tinier environments. We're just all going to be in the fucking street wondering why we don't know how to grow any food. And wondering why there's a bunch of rich people who get to fly to Mexico and do whatever they want and fly their food in on helicopters. That's where we're going in this country. You know, we're headed that direction. In America, in so-called United States of America. We are headed in that fucking direction. And I'm sure there will be lots of hyper-local economies, and there's lots of grassroots black-led, brown-led economies, and I wish I was a part of them. To be completely honest, I'm not. I'm going to be one of those people in the street who doesn't know how to fucking catch a squirrel to eat food. It's very real. And I'm also not saying let's go be frantic and become hunter-gatherers again, because I don't know if it's possible. I'm fucking half disabled. You know, I don't fucking know what the fuck's going to happen. But I think I'm trying to talk about context, because for the past hour or so, I've been naming names about people who kind of did me dirty with their bullshit. And they're getting paid much more than I am. But we're living in a context where shit is falling apart. You got your QAnon yoga neighbor talking shit right now. Completely disconnected from reality. Because ideologies. Because they've got their binary cap on and they know what's right and what's wrong, and they can't sense anymore. They don't have contextual reasoning. They don't have sensory honesty. They're not able to sense or reason contextually. They're only addicted to a kind of peak experience narrative that gives them a dopamine hit and makes them manic. It's like taking cocaine. You think every idea you have is the best idea ever. So this is what people are doing right next door to us. Right next door to me, right next door to you. And it's rough. It's rough to recognize that the very people who might harm us one minute are going to come screaming for our help the next minute. There's going to be a Kelly Germain around every corner. Blocking you one minute, saying that your whole business is trash, then unblocking you and not talking about it ever again. That's the delusion we're working with, people. And if you're listening and you're one of those deluded people, I'm sorry. That sucks. Get yourself some help. Stop hiding. Stop being dishonest. But is there really an incentive to stop being dishonest? Are we there yet in this country? I don't think so. And I don't know when that's going to be. When the military police are patrolling the streets? Is that when we're going to start to be real honest? When it won't matter the color of your skin that the military police shoot you? Is that when we'll be honest? Who gets shot first and who gets shot second? Are we battling for that prize? Because it seems like we kind of are battling for that prize. So let me ask you, where's your spiritual heroes now? Where are they? They doing something about this? Ask yourself that real question. If you're a practitioner, ask yourself, is this your context? Or are you just trying to run yoga retreats in Costa Rica? Hey man, I bet Costa Rica is fucking awesome. But for real, we need to be much more brutal and honest with who we're giving our money to, who we're paying attention to, who our newsletter subscriptions are going to. This coaching industry, this new age bullshit, this co-optation of Tantra, all this shit. Mark Walsh flying off to fucking Mexico because he made a bunch of money off of black and brown people's labor. And all those white teachers made a bunch of money off of black and brown people's labor, but then they trademarked a system. And they don't see color. Because they have one black person on the board of directors who is so attachment wounded that they will side with the white people because they were given a chance. When you're starving, and the king comes and tells you, I'll give you some food, you just have to kiss my ring, you will do it. If you don't have a gut, if you don't have strength with your ancestors, if you ain't ready to die, you will kiss that fucking ring. So to all you POC listening, I see you kissing that ring. I feel the temptation in myself to kiss that ring. You got to get fucking real with yourself. You can't hide behind your skin color anymore. It's not good enough. It's not complex enough. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And you can be pissed at me, but guess what? I tried to be your friend for 3 fucking years more. And it didn't work for me, did it? I still got erased. I still got ignored. I still wasn't your friend. So now I'm just going to bring it. And you can bring all your pointy knives and you can bring all your whisper networks. Because I know they're out there. I know that some of the same whisper network people that have targeted Tata have targeted me. I know it. I absolutely know who it is. Bring it. No amount of your rhetoric is going to change these simple facts. No amount is going to make you more honest if you're not interested in being honest. And until the rest of us actually are able to discern when a person is being dishonest, they're just going to keep getting power because we're trauma bonding with them. And this is part of why I can't do private sessions anymore right now. Because the one-on-one dyad isn't honest enough. Because we don't live in dyadic relationships. We live in a multi-causal, multi-racial, multi-gendered, everything, grouping, flocking of beings. Right? Now, don't get me wrong, sometimes dyadic relationships and conversations are absolutely part of this picture. Absolutely part of it. But they cannot be the whole picture. Nor can the demagogue and the giant cabal mob group can be the dynamic, which technically is still a dyadic relationship. A person on stage talking to a giant group of people who are all nodding their heads, that's still dyadic relationship because that group of people is basically fusing together and becoming one body. So, I'm saying all this as a person who's basically said, I'm going to do this podcast where I get to talk. But I'm using that power consciously so that all of you can understand something about how you're engaging with my words. And hopefully, in the near future, there will be a community of people that doesn't revolve around my ideas and will just be able to talk and do whatever, and I'll just be a part of that community. Just like everyone is. Just a fucking part of the goddamn community. Right? But I had to reclaim my narrative from all these people. I had to reclaim my narrative that Tata was my leader or something, or some nonsense that was not true. You know, and the way that I'm doing it is this Death Clown show, where I'm just, look, you don't have to tune in. I'm going to do this for my own benefit. Share it if you want to share it. Listen if you get something out of it. Donate if it helps you. But primarily, I can't be in charge of any of that anymore. And it would be a bit disingenuous to charge people to come to my fucking rant. It's kind of stupid. I'm not doing formalized teaching here, right? I'm just sharing my experiences with practicing and what conclusions I keep coming to and how that changes over time. So, I'm going to ring a bell. God damn. I've been waiting to talk about that shit in my own way for a fucking long time. So here's the deal. We're at time. I'm going to end it soon. If you have any questions about this material, only today, this material, and it could be very tangentially related. Like I don't, it's basically, relative how you interpret what I just said. But if you have questions or commentary or things you want to, just dig a little deeper in, things I said today, then please put that in the chat box. And we can take a 5-minute break. It's chill, like we're still here in the funeral. I didn't close the funeral yet. And that will happen. But before we do that, if there's anything really that you want me to unpack more or say more about, or if I wasn't clear about something, it's totally open. It's totally open. And for the people watching on Facebook, I'll get to your comments later, but it's not the live. So, if you want to be live, you got to be live. You got to come. You got to do the labor to get on my fucking website and find the link and click on it. And if you're here, and you don't have a question now, and you want one later, and you maybe think of it overnight or next week, there's a submit a question button on the website, on the Underworld Party page. Just go there and you can anonymously submit a question. It's pretty heavy shit, huh? I mean, to be very honest with you, I did not expect this to be the path that my life took. I was kind of still very naive 3.5 years ago when I started this. I didn't realize that the ancestors would need me or want me to do something very meta. But it makes sense in hindsight, because I'm a very meta person. But it's very real that, like, I didn't expect the industry to be so cutthroat. I didn't expect people who are counselors and this stuff to be so ideologically, essentially brainwashed. Let's just put it that way. But the reality is that the Western mental health industry is complete trash. And people still get helped by it. They're still good practitioners, obviously. But I would say on a whole, I've heard more horror stories than good stories. And that includes people like basically drugging children. Like they're fucking... Westernism is a fucking pox. It's a fucking plague. We fucking drug children because they don't want to sit still in school. And you're sanctioned to do that. If you have certain letters after your name, you can do that. But indigenous wisdom is hocus pocus. You can't sit in front of the fire in the medicine circle That's hocus pocus. That's bullshit. That's make believe. But we can drug people so that they're stupider than ever. And we're sanctioned to do that, and you get paid by the insurance companies. I'm really just I don't have that much more time on the planet. I don't have that much more time to be alive, and it would be remiss of me to not just call it out anymore. It would just be cowardly at this point. After I've seen enough, I've experienced enough to see a pattern. It's enough that I could talk like this. It doesn't mean I'm right in every instance. Everything is hypercontextual. But we're basically allowing ourselves to be drugged and tortured and abused into murder, genocide, all for the sake so that some people can own houses and pretend to own land and have sex slaves and all sorts of nasty shit that goes on in the world. And it trickles all the way down to our so called healing communities with all of these little cults running around, completely unaccountable, hiding behind identity politics and hiding behind trauma to perpetuate more trauma. I see you motherfuckers. We got a question. How did I cast those spells, and what are the signs of us being under a spell of the guru? Those are two questions. These are good questions. Okay, so how did I cast those spells? I'm going to tell you my dirt nap way of fucking casting spells. One is, you have to understand that you are a peer. You are not a supplicant. You are not a child. You are not powerless. You are not weak. You are a peer. You are a part of nature, which means you are like gods. You're just in a different form, in a different state of mind, but you are a peer, right? P-E-E-R, peer. If you can come into relationship with a being, scare the shit out of you, but if you can fundamentally understand that you are a peer, even if you're a stupid peer, even if you're completely ignorant and you're like, oh, I don't know what to do, but if you're a peer and you're sincere and genuine and honest, then simple prayer is a spell. Because words are symbols, and all magic is symbolic. It's associative, symbolic magic. So you can have a typical ceremonial spell in which you gather certain ritual objects because they're symbolic of things, and you can create a choreography of that. That totally works. There's many kinds of magic. The kind of magic that I do is kind of like naked animal in the jungle magic, which is, I'm here, I have a body, it's made of earth. I'm surrounded by other beings who have bodies that are made of earth, including things I can't see or touch or whatever, but they're made of something. They're made of space. They're made of elemental forces. I'm fundamentally a peer, even if I have amnesia, even if I am deluded, even if I am sad, regardless of the state I'm in, I'm fundamentally a peer. And from that place, given the entire context of my situation, I'm going to start to have a conversation that is sincere. Even if it's very slow, even if it doesn't make any sense, even if I don't even know what I'm going to say until I say it, which is often kind of the best way to do this kind of stuff, is don't plan it, just fucking go into it. And have some kind of structure you can fall back on when the trance gets too weird for you. Like stomping your feet, or laying on the ground, or like looking around, or like drinking water, or like drumming on a drum. Have some kind of structure where when the conversation gets too psychedelic and you're like, am I even talking? Who am I talking to? What happened? How long? How much time has passed? Blah, right? Because you don't know. When you're in it, you're in it. But have some kind of loose structure that you can enter and exit from. So, like today, I had a loose structure. There's this altar in front of me. I said some words. At any time, I can go back to that structure and touch the water, see the flame, look at the Santa Muerte idol in the middle of the altar, remember who I am, remember how I got here, and then refresh. And then you should have something you do at the beginning and something you do at the end. And anything that works in the middle, that just gives you touchstones to not lose your shit in the weirdness. But sometimes you want to lose your shit because you have to go to a place you don't know. When you have a real conversation with the universe, with entities, you're going to go, you have to leave something behind. You have to sacrifice something. And if that sacrifice is time, attention, blood, effort, money, those are all worthy sacrifices. Your time is a worthy sacrifice if you value your time. If you don't value your time and you have low self-esteem, then whoever you're talking to is going to see right through your bullshit and be like, this is a terrible offering. But if you come to the relationship going, my attention is valuable and my time is valuable and I want to give it to you or with you just so I can have a conversation with you, spend some time. Don't know what's going to come out of it. Don't even know if I'm going to get to ask for anything because that might not be where the conversation goes. You might not get to just, oh, Santa Claus, can you give me a new bicycle? Fuck that shit. This is the way I do magic, is I just open up to the naturalness and then I have conversations. And I have to be very honest about where those conversations are coming from, who I'm talking to, what feelings I'm having as I say the words. And often, they don't make fucking sense. And I don't record this shit. But speaking in tongues, singing, spontaneous poetry, gestural dances, whatever, if it's sincere and it gets you to more integration, that's what we're talking about. And you always have to have a little bit of doubt so that you're not stupid. And what I would say is you always have to eat salt. Because salt snaps you out of your stupid real fast. You're like, oh my God, oh, terrible. But if something's too sweet, if you think magic is sweetness, ooh, welcome to Stupid Town. And here's a little rant I want to go on. Here's a little rant. Let's call it some more fucking shit. Just because you might have a pussy and I don't, doesn't mean you're inherently smarter. Doesn't mean you have a main line to the goddess just because. It doesn't work that way. A lot of people think that it does. A lot of people think that because you have a certain kind of genitalia, you talk to certain beings easier, and that makes you smarter and you have more authority. This is a bullshit. This is how ghosts trick your ass. Doesn't mean anything. You might have a connection. That's great. I love all genitals. Wonderful. All the genitals. Every single one of them. That's a unique context for you to deal with. But it doesn't mean that your interpretation of who you're talking with is accurate. It just means you're having an experience, and you have to deal with whatever that means for you. But when you try to go and say this experience means that now I know what I'm talking about, it gets a little weird. You have to have a little bit of doubt and be like, maybe it means this, but I don't fucking know. I don't see enough people. Let me put it to you straight. I don't see enough pussy worshipping people who worship the pussy goddess doing this kind of shit. I don't see enough of that. Like, maybe this is good channeling. Maybe it's just me having a good time. I don't know. It's very real that we're caught in big time gender traps. I'm not saying you can't masturbate and have magic happen. You absolutely can. It's a great form of magic. Sex magic, Great, do it. I'm just saying, it might not mean what you think it means. It might just mean what it means in that moment for your current context of your own so-called personality. And over time, you can look at these things and go, oh, I thought it meant that, but it really means this other thing. Oh, weird. But when I was really manic, I really thought I was, yeah, because you got really fucking manic and you were like, oh my God, all my power is coming back to me. Yeah, because you've been so fucking, emptied out of your power, not calling your spirit back to your body, that of course when it all rushes back in, you think you're fucking demigod. Of course. That to me is a baby practitioner. You got to get over that honeymoon period. If you start doing sex magic, tantra, real tantra, not this neo-Western nonsense fucking shit. You start doing that kind of stuff and get your central channel working and the kundalini starts rising, you start seeing snakes and dragons and like Kali is coming and whoa. I'm just saying, you got to go past that hump because it's kind of like, oh yeah, that happens. That totally happens. I had that happen for years. Now, there's people that are going to be like, no, Dare, you're making it up because you have a penis. I'm going to be like, whatever. You have no idea what you're talking about. Spirits don't care what you think. Spirits will talk to anyone who's sincere enough and who will go, hey, you're honorable and responsible. I'll work with you. But there are also plenty of spirits who are like, I don't care if you're honorable or responsible. I just want to have a good time. So just because a spirit is a spirit or a god is a god or a goddess is a goddess doesn't mean they're fucking honorable or ethical. It just means they want to have a good time with you, and maybe they do. Yeah, spirits don't care what kind of junk you have, but some of them do. Because just like everybody else, it's hyper-contextual. It's based on your biases and interpretations and their biases and interpretations, and if you think gods know everything, you're completely going to be in a shit relationship with them because they don't. Just like when you were a kid, you thought your parents knew everything, and one day you realized they didn't, and you were like, oh my God, I'm so disillusioned. Ah! This is what people are going through right now on the internet. Oh my God, the pussy magic, the kundalini are telling me all the things. And it's like, oh, okay, let's get you over that. Let's talk to me in like 3 to 5 years after that shit has become so boring and normal that you're not addicted to it anymore and you're able to like not chase it and you still are just chill, and talk to me later. But we've got a bunch of people coming on the scene and they're like, oh my God, the kundalinis. And it's like, whoa. Just, if you want to use that energy to cast a spell, you should do it. You should see what happens when you do it. But when you create an ideology out of that that doesn't actually hold water because you haven't tested it enough, because you're so scarce and so starving, not so good scene, baby. You have to be able to go, wow, can I repeat this? And if I can repeat it, can I repeat it in a different context? And can I ask it different questions? Or are there things I'm not supposed to ask it? Oh, why is that? Why can't I ask my God how they're fucking with me and get a straight answer? Why? Because I'm fucking codependent, that's why. So you got to get to the point where you go, hey, I love being in this relationship, but also, did I let you con me along the way? Can we renegotiate that? You got to have these kinds of questions when you do magic. No question. If you're not able to go, what can't I sense? If you're not able to like pull out a tarot card and be like, how am I being stupid right now? And pull a card and be like, whoa, that's real true. If you can't do that kind of like anti-fragile magic where you're actually like, how am I being a fucking dipshit right now? Oh shit. Of course. If you can't do that kind of magic, you ain't ready to be a practitioner. But you'll definitely find people who will pay you. Because people just want the manic, I'm so great. It's like, well, whatever. Great. And, you had a peak experience, but I wouldn't say it's very ethical. So that's that. And there's a second part of this question, which is very important. What are the signs of being under a spell of the guru? I just said a bit of them. The guru, the god, the goddess, whoever you think is more powerful than you. This is a real fucking shit. So If you're not able to disagree, you're in it. If you think everything that being says is absolutely 100% correct, you're in it. If you can't find a second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh opinion from another deity, another being, another spirit, you're in it. If you can't have more than two deities at a time, you're in it, right? Like, you got to be able to go walk around the village and be like, hey, what's up? Hey, your cousin over there told me some shit. What do you have to say about it? Oh, that's interesting. If you can't be like that with the spirits, you're not there yet. You're not there yet. And if you can't drop it all and be like, thanks, I'm a peer, I can come up with my own decisions and know that you're still available for consult if I want it, if you can't do that either, you're still codependent, right? You have to get to the point where you can be wholly yourself and wholly interdependent, almost equally changeable. Like just changing your shirt. Like, oh, I like this pink shirt. Oh, now I like this black shirt. Oh, cool. And you're like, pick a favorite shirt. And you're like, no, I can't pick a favorite shirt. I like them all. Great. That's what we're kind of going for. Like a kind of inherency to like, the universe is magical. Everyone's a magician. Some people have specializations. What do I want to do? If you can't get to that point, and yeah, it's like, you got some work to do. You got to really deal with your shit. If you can't breathe into your guts and genitals without having like really weird peak experiences, oof, that's rough too, because you want it to be basically boring at a certain level so that you can deal with more complexity. If a little bit of complexity puts you over the edge and you keep having these like spikes of energy that are really intense, you just are going through that phase and you need to be honest about the phase you're in. And that's totally fine. Like, I'm not advocating skipping steps, because if you followed my work for the past 3 years, you see me in different phases. And then hopefully you also see me go, okay, I remedied that kind of shit in the past and I'm moving forward. And you see me doing this kind of like iterating forward without necessarily vilifying anything. I'm just not, I'm like, oh yeah, I was at that level of peership. And now I'm at this level of peership. And now I'm at this level. And I also don't know all the things. So don't ask me about hoodoo or, Santeria, because I don't fucking practice that shit. And they have a totally different system. So, you know what I mean? Like, context is very important. The relationships and the context are very, very important. Right? So you need to be able to rock and roll in that multi-contextual kind of flow and be like, what's good for me? Oh, I gotta go over here. This feels right for me. And then when you're on that shore, you can look at the other shore and say, oh, that's a nice shore too. It's not for me right now, but it's not a bad shore. It's just another shore, right? It's another thing you can do on this planet. Just like all the people I fucking called out today, they're just choosing their path of magic. I can't really say it's the wrong path, but I can have my opinions about it. But it's like, well, that's what they're doing. That's where they're at. Right? And part of being in an ecosystem is that there's checks and balances. So consider me a little bit of the asshole checks and balance person who's like, man, if you get to say whatever you want, I get to say whatever I want. Let's see how you like it. So some more stuff come in. Yeah, this is the tea, isn't it? This is like, what happens when you stop being a student and you start being a creature and you start going, how can I be a more responsible creature? And how can I be around other creatures who want to be responsible? And we can differentiate and we can have disagreements, but we're all here to be more responsible. And sometimes to be more responsible, we have to sacrifice some things, like our safety and our thinking that we know everything, or thinking that there's a safe way to be, or that there's identity politics or something like that. On some level, there are absolutely identity politics that are very important, right? I'm not saying throw it out. I'm saying, can you dance between the levels of reality in which all these beings are constantly overlapping and existing? And can you do that without blowing your fucking circuits? Can you do that without hardening into an ideology that isn't producing the results for the community that are necessary? Because it's about adaptability, and we are not an individualized species. We are a herd species. We are a herd mammal. When we're spirits, we might be something else. But as long as we are in these bodies, we are a herd mammal. And there are certain things that herd mammals need to pay attention to. So if you think that you can bypass being a herd mammal because you talk to some 5G reptile being who told you that you are a star god, I'm just, it's really, it's like this. Have your people talk to my people. Because for every spirit that tells you you're a fucking, superstar being, it's like, oh, I got a bridge to sell you. Yeah. I got a car I need to get rid of. So it's very real that the hustle is on in all levels of reality. Just because somebody looks like an angel or gives you a shot of kundalini in your wee-wee doesn't mean that they are not trying to hustle you. All beings are hustlers. I'm a hustler, you're a hustler. We're all trying to hustle. So all these spiritual beings, they're trying to hustle too. And if we know that, and we're honest about it, we could still have a relationship. We can still be like, oh, my ancestors are trying to hustle me. Yeah, okay. And sometimes we like getting hustled. And we go, oh, I learned a lot from getting hustled. And I might do it again. I might say yes to being hustled next time. There's no fucking guarantee. I'm not infallible. And I also sometimes don't even know what I'm doing. I'm just improvising. I'm like, I think this is the right idea. It may not be the right idea. But we live in a marketplace where that's sort of, it's selling certainty. Even when it talks about uncertainty, it's selling certainty. It's selling authority. It's selling, you can feel safe now because herd mammals want to feel safe. And so if I sell you a narrative that makes you feel more safe, you will give me more money. And then I will feel more safe. And now we feel safe together. You gave me safety and I gave you safety. Now, am I saying that's a problem all the time? No. But if that's unexamined, that's where we are in the culture, this kind of unexamined transactional false safety thing that actually kills all the people that we outsource our labor to here in the West, right? So this is how racism works. This is how sexism works and sex trafficking and all that nasty shit, is that we're constantly outsourcing the things we don't want to cop to so that we can feel like we're righteous people. We don't want to see the blood, where the blood of the blood diamonds. We just want the diamonds. This is the reality that we're in. And so this might cause people to freak out, be very angry, to be in despair. I'm not saying any of that shit. I think if you think this is overly tragic, you're not feeling the joy in being honest. There's a real pleasure in just like laying it all on the table. And that can actually make you go, hey, I'm going to wake up and keep laying it on the table. And when other people try to con me, I'm going to say, what's not being laid on the table here? Attachment wounds, cult dynamics, money, Like, it's very real. Like, I'm always listening to people. I take all these classes, right? I'm constantly taking classes. A lot of them are by white people. And I'm always like, what's not being said here? when they say something, what are they assuming that the something that they're saying is? And who's left out of that concept? Right? And it's not just white people doing this. We are all now together in a kind of decontextualized soup of madness that allows us to believe that we absolutely know exactly what everyone else is talking about, but we don't. We're using words and terms completely differently. And until it gets down to that hyper-local micro context of feet on the ground, three-dimensional space, make an action, see the consequences. Make an action, see the consequences. Until we get to that level, your practice isn't a practice. It's just a concept. Yeah. Okay. Thank you all so much for listening. I know that a lot of what I'm saying is confusing to some people. I would say lean into the places where your system feels confused by what I'm saying and deal with the confusion straight up as a being, not about my words. I'm just saying things. They're helping different people at different times. Not everyone is going to get the same thing out of what I'm saying. That's not the point. The point is it's kind of like a Rorschach drawing. Everyone sees a different thing because your system needs to confront something and it shows you what that is, but symbolically. So don't try to understand everything I'm saying. Try to let it guide you to something real for your system. And then, next month, 2 years later, 10 years later, listen to the recording again. It will knock something else loose from the tree. I do this with my teachers who left recordings and are now dead. I listen to them. I'm like, whoa, I got all this stuff. I took all these notes. I listen to them like a year or two later. I'm like, what the fuck? What the hell's going on? It's a totally new thing. This is what real teaching is. It keeps on giving. It doesn't end. It's just constantly ping-ponging and multi-contextual resonance and all sorts of relationships wrestling together. So we're going to do a closing ritual because we opened with a ritual and we named some fucking names and I'm sure there's going to be blowback. I'm sure there's going to be blowback. I'm sure there's going to be a part 2 and a part 3 and a part 4. Okay. Holy Mother, in you we live and move and breathe and have our being. From you all things emerge, and to you all things return. Mother of all beings, Black Mother, we are your children, we are yourself. Thank you so much for this precious life, this game that we get to play. May we all keep playing it in a way that is good for all our relations. May this game be the game that keeps playing itself even after we are gone. Thank you for this opportunity. For all those people that I called out today, that I named names, for all posterity, I want all of those people to be well. I want all those people to be in right relationship. And I don't know what that looks like. So please, you who are the mother of all beings, please help guide that process in a way that is good for all beings in all time and all space. So that we could all maybe turn this ship around. So that we don't have to learn by killing ourselves anymore. that we could learn by cooperation instead of violence. I would like that. I hope that is a good prayer. I hope that is a good wish. I don't know if it is, but that is what I'm trying to move this body towards in this lifetime while I die. If there are any beings here or there or anywhere that have a deep enmity towards me and want to hurt me and attack me and kill me, please protect me from those beings. Please have those beings get what they need in a different way. And for all the people, all the beings that this recording might help in the future, please let this go to them in the easiest way, in a gentle way, in a way that is just right for them, so that they can use it in their own relationships to remediate what they need to remediate, to repair what they need to repair, to create what they need to create in accordance with their fate in the great web of life that we are all a part of. With all those words being said, please help this final prayer for today be a blessing for all our relations. May all beings be well. May all beings be loved. And may all beings be at peace. Thank you. Talk to you all next time. Underworld Party, signing out.